No matter how you feel about it, the government is moving forward with a new Renters' Bill of Rights in Canada. That's right, a Renters' Bill of Rights. Now, if you're a renter, you're probably pretty excited about this opportunity to boost your credit by simply paying rent. If you're a landlord, you might be wondering, what does this mean for me? Although some might be excited because now they have an opportunity to see if other tenants and people who are looking to apply for their units are actually people that are making good rent payments and have good credit in place right now. As you already know at this time, or you may not know this, landlords already have the ability to report rent to the credit bureau, although it is a little bit of an arduous process and it's very rare that landlords actually do this. In addition to that, typically a landlord would, we would hope they would, check credit score of a potential tenant on a property if they were going to rent to them. So this isn't probably revolutionary per se, but it is a big deal and it is going to impact some people and some of the ways that rent and tenancy is considered in Canada. So today we're going to dive deep into this particular program, what it could mean, and what some of the ramifications could look like for you. Not long ago, Equifax received a phone call from the government's office saying, we would like to explore the possibility of reporting rent on the credit bureaus on a regular basis. And of course, Equifax has obliged, noting that they've previously reported rent specifically and only when landlords were actually doing that. More on that a little bit later. A few things to note, however. If you don't know this already, mortgages were only being reported on Equifax's credit bureau as recently as about 15 years ago. And it took 4 to 5 years for them to actually implement an entire rollout of mortgages. And even to this day, not every mortgage and every mortgage lender is reporting actively on Equifax credit bureau, although it is primarily speaking reported from any bank, credit union, or federally regulated institution at this time right now. Here's an interesting thought. Now, given the amount of landlords in our country compared to the amount of mortgage lenders, this is a massive undertaking, and we're talking massive. Think about it from this perspective. Right now, there might be 100 different lenders in our country that are reporting to the Equifax Credit Bureau, but there literally are thousands and thousands of landlords. And in many situations, they're mom and pop landlords that are going to be required to do additional work on a monthly basis that they may not be inclined to do. In either way, case or scenario, there is going to be a lot of work ahead of Equifax and any agency that is involved with transferring this data as quick as possible. Equifax has not confirmed to us how they will be legitimizing this data, nor they haven't confirmed what name they'll be putting on the credit bureau. Because as an example, if you own a property and you own it in your personal name and you're renting it out, that might show or report as of right now your name on a credit bureau as if it were a bank or another lender, which may cause some level of concern from a potential landlord. Other considerations is that they've been testing this out already for 18 months and are still no closer to actually finding a real solution for how they're going to start to roll this out. Now, we did mention earlier that landlords and tenants do have the ability to report current rent payments right now through different third-party apps like Borrowell and a few others at this time right now. Although it is still a very rare occurrence and it does only comprise a very small percentage of the actual credit. Now, if you haven't already seen the video, Trudeau is basically pushing this out as if it is a revolutionary change to young people in the country that are going to get better mortgage rates and better terms when it comes to their actual mortgages. Now, I said I was going to save some of the juicy stuff for later, so I'm just going to touch on this right now because it's important to talk about the why that this policy is being put into effect. And if you listen to a lot of the feedback that he's provided, you would think that we'd have a major credit issue, and the credit being the primary reason that most Canadians cannot actually get a mortgage in Canada. Now, while in fact this can help people, especially those who have quote unquote thin credit, who might only have a student loan and a small credit card, at this point right now, many lenders already accept rental invoices and lease agreements in exchange for low credit or thin credit in the first place, assuming there's no other issues reporting on the credit bureau. So will this reporting on the credit bureau have any meaningful impact on a lender's desire to lend to someone who has quote unquote thin or minimal credit? Chances are pretty low at this time right now, but I'd love to hear feedback from you. So furthermore, how does a consumer actually benefit from this? Well, I think the reality is someone who is paying their rent on time every single time, which you would hope they are doing at this time right now, benefits from a little bit of a bump in their credit score. So whether you're young and or have thin credit or someone who has an increased credit amount, it's only a positive to give someone an opportunity to have an increased credit based on a monthly obligation that they're required to be paying at this time right now. You have to look at that as a positive for anybody who's actually reporting and has rent on the bureau. Conversely speaking, we know that a large majority of Canadians are also late on their rent payments. And so the chances are anyone who is negatively impacted financially or struggling financially is probably already going to be feeling some pain, let alone the pain of now a landlord actually reporting that this tenant was late on their credit. Now, we can chalk that up as a benefit or a win from a tenant's perspective because, of course, if someone is late on their rent at this time right now, typically speaking, a landlord isn't actually reporting this anywhere, and the future landlords would have no idea that someone was consistently late on their rent as it stands. Which leads us to our next point as it relates to lenders and landlords. So talking specifically about landlords, well, landlords benefit because now they know exactly who's paying rent on time and who's not. And there is nothing bad about that. As a landlord myself, I can tell you that I have had tenants that have been consistently late on rent payments. And shockingly or unshockingly, this would probably mean that they've been consistently late on rent payments in the past. This can be frustrating and stressful when you're trying to actually make sure to keep up your obligations for mortgage payments, property taxes, and strata fees. And I know I'm not alone as a landlord in that space. As in my situation, I have single family properties and condos that are meant to house families that we've had in these units for multiple years. So certainly not taking advantage of any systems providing a place for people to stay who couldn't otherwise afford to buy a home. It can be massively frustrating and hard to actually manage your costs when you don't know what's coming in or coming out every month. And so really, this actually benefits landlords, and it provides them with an opportunity to better screen people who are coming into the marketplace, which I believe is going to have a consistent and continued negative impact to those people who aren't making their payments on time, therefore pushing them into other marketplaces of I don't know really where. How do lenders benefit from this? Well, unlike what Trudeau is saying, I think this is going to have a negative impact more than a positive impact if someone is late for their rent. Right now, it doesn't actually report on their credit bureau. And when people are younger, they tend to make more mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And so my argument would actually be that the lenders would probably benefit because, hey, they're going to look at more people as unfit to take on a mortgage payment. Whereas right now that may not be the case or situation because they have no idea whether or not someone's actually made their payments. I mean, I think we can all agree that most people who are renting try their best to keep things on track and make their rent payments. But as I mentioned, younger people can often make certain mistakes because it's their first time around, and this could actually hurt them more than helping them more than anything else. So what does this actually mean in the rental market more than anything else? Well, it's probably an obvious eventual step at this time right now, but it's probably just going to end up causing more challenges than positive. Over 90% of Canadians, according to a recent survey, are actually paying their rent on time. And so it's not going to have any meaningful impact to those people over anything else. Contrary to what Trudeau said, you're not going to get a better mortgage interest rate or other options if you're paying your rent on time anyways at this time right now. The flip side to that is the 10% who aren't are probably going to be more negatively hurt, and landlords will probably be happy for that. But this is creating more red tape and more work for anyone who owns a rental property. And so it might actually turn off potential landlords from even owning rental properties, which, contrary to what some people believe, is actually not a good thing because we need landlords to have renters to be able to live in homes. Not everybody can or wants to own a piece of real estate, specifically if they're moving from location to location or they have lifestyle changes that don't lead them to want to own real estate. All in all, this is another nothing burger situation that's creating more red tape for people, and I believe it won't have a meaningful impact immediately in the marketplace because it's probably going to take 3 to 5 years to properly roll out. That being said, I want to hear your feedback. What do you think about these Renters' Bill of Rights? Is there anything I missed, anything I should have touched on, or any unforeseen challenges which might show up from this? Make sure if you like this content or you find it useful to hit that like and that subscribe button and comment below.